Deep shot. He's got a touchdown.
And Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome back to what is another edition of the Bucs Banter podcast, live on Bucs Report. I am your host, Collin Hallboom, and I am joined by my colleagues, Scott Capron and Bodan Yard. Fellas, it's a dreary day around the Hallboom household. I'm sure you can guess why, and I'm sure most of the Bucs fans watching this, either now or later, share in my misery as the Buccaneers are coming off their second consecutive ugly loss, and to an inferior opponent as they lose 29-19 to Taylor Heineke and the Washington football team, the now 3-6 Washington football team.
Crazy. Like,
I mean,
I don't even know where to start with this. I've never watched a game for that long just being like, this doesn't seem like should happen the way that it's happening. Like, it just feels like everything was wrong. But
okay, yeah, and hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining us on a dreary Monday, as you said. But I think I know where we're starting, guys, and I think it's with that Bucs Washington game. I don't know, just a stab in the dark, looking at the outline.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy to breeze right past it if you want.
I think we should probably discuss.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's as bad of a loss as it gets for this version of the Buccaneers. Just absolutely atrocious on both sides of the ball, right? Normally the offense is at least doing their thing. They have been all year. Tom Brady's been especially dialed in this season, despite certain position groups maybe not holding their own. But the offense has been as close to unstoppable as you can want them to be. The problems have all been on the defensive side, which has been well documented. Everyone knows that. But when you see the offense isn't there to pick up the slack, it got real ugly real fast. Heineke looked like Dan Marino at points. And the Buccaneers defense looked really rough. But so did the offense. Like, I almost, like, I don't know where to start. I hate to be that guy to just be, pushing the negative button, but I'm just being genuine. It was really all around a rough go for any Bucs fan.
Do you want to start with any bright spots? Like, the only bright spot I can think of is Mike Evans, and they didn't really get him involved as much as I thought they might have going down the stretch. But the 40-yard touchdown pass was unbelievable. That swim move he basically puts on the cornerback to get open on a go route. That was a great play.
Yeah, Fuller. Sorry, Bo, but Fuller was like, you could see him complaining about that. Like,
whatever. Yeah,
that was a fine play. That was a great way to get off within the first 5 yards there.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. It was like, it's within 2 yards to the line of scrimmage. It's like, don't press Mike Evans. Maybe you're not that guy.
Now, to answer your question, do I want to start with the bright spots? No, because I just can't yet. That's
there.
Also, that there are no actual bright spots in a 10-point loss to a team that doesn't have a name, right? Let's call it as it is. Like they sucked. They were beat the whole game. Once again, these slow starts are killing them. Like, it looked like they were going to climb back into the game, but the longer you let these teams stick around, like, they're still NFL teams, it's hard to win. It's hard to beat these teams, right? No matter what. Like, we see these crazy upsets all the time. It's just what happens. And you let them hang around, and they got beat. And 10 was, I thought, like, losing by 10 was fair. It's not like they got screwed or anything like that. Like, they were the worst team. They got beat by 2 scores, and that was super concerning. I loved them this week. I thought off the bye, a few guys getting back healthy, an inferior team, and kind of a crowd that's known for turning on their team when things go poorly. I wasn't thinking it was going to be the same as the Chicago game at the half, but I was totally ready for a 21-3 halftime lead, and this thing is over. And it just, you could tell right away that wasn't happening on Sunday.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, I'll start with the worst of it. That final 10-minute drive of the game for Washington was literally torture. Like,
when you need to stop, and you're like, there's no chance, and they're just churning time off the clock, and you realize how short an NFL game is because how little the clock stops. That's the most helpless feeling in sports, baby. Like, it is awful.
They were actually starting to pull it together too, which is what made it that much worse. Was like, oh, the defense isn't like shooting itself in the foot all of a sudden. And it just felt like, oh, all you need to do is get a stop and get the ball back in Brady's hands, and you guys are fine. And that drive just never, ever ended.
And to make matters worse, in addition to them scoring a touchdown after that full quarter drive to seal the victory, Vita Vea was carted off the field after that play. And we just see, Fox we didn't even get a clear glimpse of how it happened. They just come back and then you see him on the cart. And I was like, wait, what? Vea's been carted off. I was so depressed yesterday. It was really bad. Like, the Sunday scaries is one thing. That was bad.
That was really bad.
But have we heard anything about Vea?
We have, and I'm very happy to report that it is a sprained ACL or MCL, I forget which, and a bone bruise. So similar result to what happened with Mike Evans, sprained ligament, bone bruise last year versus Washington, actually, in that first round playoff game where it looked Evans, that injury
looked way worse.
I still can't believe Evans played the next game because that was insane. But anyway, so he doesn't even need to go on IR. He might be back in a couple weeks. So, like, best case, because despite whatever happened in that game, if we were to move past that, Buccaneers are still 6-3. So losing Vita Vea would have been the signature ailment of that, or result of that game. Like, that was a big deal. So the fact that he's going to be back is a little bit of lighting at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah.
But it's like
that like watching him come on, like when he was on the cart, I was like, oh, they told him something about his season. That's the way his face looked when he was getting carted off. Sorry, Scott, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, it feels like they have a mandate to lose a starter on defense every game, and it just happened to be Vea this time, right? It's hard to watch. There's lots to break down about this game. Ultimately, they're fine, I think. Like, they'll figure it out. But these are tough losses. Like, these are concerning losses. And you're right. They're 6-3. Not the end of the world. But, man, by 10 at Washington, and when you were definitively the second best team on the field, like, that was not good this weekend, guys. I don't know. And, like, the rest of the NFC is shaping up to be so difficult. Hey, it's hard to get to any Super Bowl. It's hard to win any Super Bowl. But they're going to be really up against it here, I think. And they need to get completely healthy as well. Figure a lot out. Luckily, there's still half of the games of the season, right? Like, with the 17 games, there's still a ton of time to get this all sorted out. But, man, I just I'm weirdly disappointed in them on Sunday. I was really looking forward to see what Brady was going to look like coming off the bye. And, they just sucked.
And you mentioned they're going to be up against it. I think maybe they need to be up against it.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Like last year, like, I don't know, like, because the NFL rolling out the red carpet for this repeat pursuit hasn't worked so far. And again, we're complaining they're 6-3, yada, yada, yada. But still, like these are back-to-back really poor performances against inferior opponents.
Yeah.
Dating back to the Saints game, coming off a bye. Unfortunately, we were expecting Sean Murphy-Bunting to be back, Scotty Miller to be back. Richard Sherman was supposed to be back, and he tweaked his calf in warm-up. I'm no longer even considering Richard Sherman a member of the team. No disrespect to him or anything. Like, I get it. Dude's been out of the league for a while now. But
yeah, how can you?
I'm just not even going to put that in my head. There's no point. So
no, I'm with you there.
Yeah,
he doesn't move the dial anymore as much as I think. Like, if he stayed healthy, he didn't go out in the first game of his year, and he was like rolling. Maybe you get something out of Richard Sherman, but it's tough to think that he's going to come back and be an impact player.
I agree.
It would be house money at this point if he does.
Yeah, because if he's back, it means a lot of other people are also back too, right?
Yeah,
true. So yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it felt like we just had a team of safeties back there at points. Yeah. All three of our safeties on the field, like what felt like the whole game, plus Ross Cockrell. Like, at points there were 4 safeties out there. So, I mean, yeah, there is no excuse. Let me make that clear. But I am saying the secondary injury issues were present more so than anticipated based on the news coming out of Bucs camp heading into the game. Weird scenario too. Like this was Brady's worst game in a long time.
Yeah.
So even against New Orleans, when you run the tape back, like he was delivering a lot of really, really high difficulty throws on the money. Like he still actually in a vacuum played pretty well, despite how things looked. If you just were going off your initial eye test this week, there's no way that was the case. I mean, it was check down city and they still managed to turn it over twice. Strangely, the Darden interception, I mean, almost felt like it could have been ruled a fumble, but did you guys both catch that live?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched the whole game.
So it was really weird. In Bruce Arians' press conference today, he identified that he tried to say both interceptions were Brady's fault.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was a little odd. I think he said that right after the game too.
Or maybe it was after the game. Sorry.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, why he's even saying that? Like, everyone watched the game. That couldn't be less Brady's fault. That's just a stupid comment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't. He laid in, and maybe he's just trying to fire them up, and like kind of do like Belichick, no one's higher than the team thing, and I'm going to make an example out of Tom Brady type of thing. But I don't know. Like, yeah, I saw those comments. I'm just like that. The Darden one was definitely not on him.
No.
Old Brucey isn't afraid to stir the pot, and call some guys out and just kind of say things for the sake of it. It seems like.
The emphasis on the last point you just made, saying things for the sake of saying it, I almost feel like he's just trying to go back to his recipe book and be like, oh, I called Tom Brady out last year and it really inspired him and our team. Yeah. I'm like, okay, if that's your angle, I guess, but like, let's not force something that isn't there, because to call that interception on Brady is just totally unnecessary and not right. Maybe it's more him standing up for the rookie and not wanting the rookie to get raked over. I don't know, but everyone watched the same play, so there's no need for it, in my opinion.
Is there any word on Darden? He was injured in that game too, right?
He returned after that and looked fine. So it was weird, right? He went down like clutching his back and he looked to be in a lot of pain. However, he was returning kicks after that, so he seems to be fine. All indications on my end. And while we're on the topic of the Bucs, folks, on Bucs Report or watching on Bucs Banter or both, whichever, feel free to chime in. Everyone's a little quiet. Is this just the vibes on after losing 2 in a row? Have we become so spoiled as Buccaneers fans that we're not willing to discuss our team on the ugliest of days?
I mean, it's possible. Some people like to bottle up their issues, right? They just blast past it and just, throw on an episode of something and tune everything out. That's not me. I'm a sharer. All right. What can I say? But some people, not everyone's like that.
Wow, you're fitting in with the mustache and everything, dude. That's like a real shtick.
If I'm being completely honest, I'm just getting ready for this Michigan-Ohio State game in 2 weeks. I'm trying to get out ahead of this inevitable disappointment. So, I mean, I'm wearing a Beat Ohio shirt, but it's a real yin-yang situation, left brain, right brain. And anyway, if that's what any Bucs fans are feeling, I'm just trying to get there with them too. So.
Ron Alvarado on Facebook didn't get to see the game, but got the score and just wondering what happened. Yeah. Ron, if you're just tuning in, it's really hard to put your finger on all of the different things that seem to go wrong. The biggest difference from previous performances that were underwhelming for this Bucs team were more could be isolated on the defensive side of the ball for the most part. That wasn't the case in this game. The offense was stagnant right from the start. In the big picture, penalties weren't huge, but we had a neutral zone infraction and an offsides on 2 of our veteran defensive linemen in the first quarter.
Downs.
Like, exactly. That's something that has been a huge theme with this team, especially the veterans going offsides and making these stupid penalties. That's got to stop. I mean, that's something. What more can you say about it? Like, figure it out. Just figure it out. Be accountable to yourself. This isn't a team issue. You worry about yourself being disciplined and playing the whistle properly and understanding where the neutral zone is.
And just killer timing on some of the penalties. Don't you find like certain teams just seem to have the penchant for shooting themselves in the foot more than others based on when and what the penalties are? You know what I mean? That's like last night watching the Chiefs Raiders. I think it was still 17-14 and the Raiders stopped KC behind the line. It was going to be 2nd and 11, but that Max Crosby guy power slammed Darrell Williams.
Yeah, I saw that too.
15 yards. and KC scores 3 plays later. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
all penalties in football, like they're killer in their own way, but some are just way more impactful than others.
Yeah, that was a brutal one too.
I
I think like
for us, but
the thing that stuck out to me and like why I thought the Bucs would win was the broadcast kept on honing in on Ron Rivera telling the media and telling everyone that would listen to him this week, oh, we're just going to fall in love with the 4-yard runs against this Bucs defense, which is one of the best run defenses in the league, if not the best. But they did it. They Antonio Gibson had 24 carries, about 3 yards per carry. Like it's pretty crazy that they thought that was a winning formula. And I get that they got out to a big lead at the start of this game and okay, now we're going to try to drain the clock, but to think that that was a formula to beating the Bucs in like a very important way. And even though you saw a few of those, especially on that last drive, that Adam Humphries catch on 3rd down was just an absolute killer, a 10-yard catch, 10, 15-yard catch. They were committed to the run, and they won the game because they were able to run the ball against the Bucs. Even though I thought Devin White had played a great game, Levante David played a great game. He got in there like with one of the famous Peanut Tillman punches the ball and gets the fumble. I thought that was going to swing the game, and that we're going to the Bucs are going to start rolling now. But they never wavered. They just kept on converting 3rd downs, running the ball effectively, and like hats off to Washington. I don't know what made them think they would get away with that, with how bad their run offense is and how bad their offensive line is in general. But for a team that's bad at running the football and also defending the pass, they did both of those things on Sunday, and that's why they won.
Well said. Very well said. Yeah, Bo, like I'm glad, like you asked about, do we want to start with the positive? So I'm glad you brought that up because the linebacker play was positive despite the results. Like, I'm sorry. Devin White and Levante David both, they combined for 32 total tackles. Devin White had 18 tackles and 2 sacks. So a lot of people have been roasting Devin White on the stake in Bucsland, and obviously it didn't work, whatever. But if you're just viewing his play, I thought he was controlled for the most part, while still remaining aggressive, which is the best version of Devin White you can possibly get. That's when he's an absolute game wrecker. Didn't wreck the game, but he at least was showing signs of being the Devin White. Not signs. He was announcing that he is very much still a force at that position. So it was really nice to see that. And then Levante's just always doing his thing, man. He's
so solid.
He's so consistent. It's insane.
And we know he hit the over on that tackles with 18. We'll take that.
Yeah, the in-game he had a ton right away.
A ticket.
Yeah, you're right. That's goddamn. What I just can't. This whole everything went wrong. Anyway, speaking of the brights, I thought Winfield played pretty well too. Actually, Antoine Winfield played just a fine game. So Christopher Cole, he's bringing the bright side. We appreciate that, Christopher, on Facebook. It was a very bad played game, but we will figure it out. And I agree. There's lots of season to go. I sure hope we can get healthy, get Gronk. We really missed AB out there because AB's explosiveness. That was a game where every other game I'm like, oh, no AB, rest him up, no worries. Let's feed Godwin and Evans and whatever. They needed AB. This game.
Scary amount of drops, especially from our guy Tyler Johnson, who we were giving a big shout out to before the bye. But yeah, that's not what you want to see from Tyler Johnson if he wants to be that 3rd wide receiver.
Right.
At some point in his career, like that didn't seem like he's like growing into that position, is what I would say.
Right, and you mentioned Adam Humphries with that huge conversion catch, right?
Former Buck,
that's a guy who took advantage of his opportunities and they couldn't keep him off the field. So Tyler Johnson currently finds himself in that same position. You got to capitalize. It's all about your opportunity. They'll find someone else who will. Scotty Miller's out, right? So it really is an opportunity for Tyler Johnson to play that
huge
receiver spot. And he didn't have a good game. Lots of the receivers were underwhelming. I mean, the whole offensive game plan was clearly to dink and dunk. Lenny had like a shit ton of catches. I don't know.
8 catches on 9 targets. I've got it up right here.
And he had that terrible drop early on too, right? Where him and Gio Bernard had big drops.
Gio had a horrible drop. Yeah.
Yeah, they were giving him the under. They were.
I think he had back-to-back ones. He had back-to-back drops. Yeah, 3 targets, 1 catch, and I'm pretty sure I had 2 drops on those 2 targets. So on those 3 targets, like Yeah, Gio didn't look good. Was Rojo even out there? Was he out?
It's Lenny's trained now, baby.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah,
all I gotta say.
that's been proven to be true. It looks like, fair enough. Too.
I think Rojo's pretty much injury insurance. I mean, Lenny's still running tough, man. Like he's playing well. He's playing really, really well. So I prefer him to just keep rolling, get that confidence going.
Yeah, that's a positive for sure.
Yeah.
Collin, what was your general feeling during the game? Like, did it feel like inevitable that they were going to, like, where was your head at? We weren't really talking during the game, and we didn't watch it together. So I was just like, what were you thinking? Because it just looked like it was one of those days. It just looked like it was the basically the Saints game all over again, right? Like it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I bet the Buccaneers money line 4 different times. So maybe blinded by my own ambition. But no, I felt like things
were... You read my book.
Yeah, exactly.
The book that's exactly one sentence long.
Yeah. But I was comfortable losing that bet because it felt like the Bucs were right there, and it felt like a lot of things were going Washington's way. Like it felt in some ways lucky at first, proved not to be luck at all because I mean Heineke really played a good second half.
He really did,
which wasn't the case early on. I mean, they lost Chase Young, unfortunately. Torn MCL. That really sucks to see Chase go down. As a football fan, but he's young. He'll bounce back. And McLaurin got hurt early.
Yeah.
So I was a little like those things. I'm like, those guys are banged up. Like, man, Tampa's got to come out rolling. Tom's not going to allow this to happen coming out of the break.
Dude, I'm shocked McLaurin's not still on the field after that hit he took from Jordan Whitehead. He got like sandwiched between, I forget who was covering him, but Jordan Whitehead comes out of nowhere and literally like tries to break him in half. And somehow Terry gets up and is like,
he held the ball.
It was insane. He held his ball. I couldn't believe it, man.
Jordan Whitehead is an absolute lunatic.
He is like, yeah, he's not normal. That's
no, like he has no barometer of like potential pain, injury, whatever. Like he would take a Chevy Silverado head on, on the
that, and like he also has no idea what the limits of his force are. So he just always says, "Oh, I'm just gonna go full speed." And like, I'm just going to hit this guy as hard as I possibly can. And it's like, I have no idea what that could do to another human being, but I'm going to try it.
He doesn't tackle with his arms enough. Like he just fully relies on
shoulder. Shoulder and force.
Often he doesn't need to, but there were a couple times yesterday where I wish he did. He helped save Gibson from punching it in on the one where he kind of used his arms for once.
Yeah.
But Whitehead's got to be, in terms of just like hard hitting, he has to be at the top of that list in the NFL right now from the safety position. It's
it's at the point where I'm like, if I see a big throw against the Bucs defense, I'm like, oh no, that receiver's screwed because Jordan Whitehead's going to come out of nowhere. Like he's like never in the frame, but he's in on every deep ball. It's insane.
I'm expecting to see him one time and we're going to look and he just doesn't have a helmet on and he's still out there just flinging his body like he doesn't, or one of those old ones with just like the single bar and he doesn't just like hacking darts in between plays because he's so old school. I'm expecting, honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised.
It's more likely that like half of his shoulder pads are just gone, just like dust because he just annihilated someone.
Yeah.
Randy Wynn on Facebook asks, if Washington's weakness is the long pass, why was Tampa's pass strategy short passes? Well,
they were giving it to him.
That's the only thing that was there. They were playing that too high shell all game.
Exactly, because they know what the Bucs' strength is. So they adjusted their defense naturally to get more, to make things more challenging. Bucs were trying to take what was there. And also I think that the Buccaneers receivers weren't creating as much separation as you think. I mean, when Evans shook Fuller there, Brady hit him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ultimately it's that their defensive scheme was working. And I think being down that one playmaker, like I was talking about, missing AB's explosiveness, I found this game more than any other game that he's missed this year. I was really missing some AB. Their only reliable guy to catch those screen passes was Godwin, who's really good at that. But AB has a different kind of explosiveness too to stretch the field. He does everything right. So these aren't excuses.
He makes those guys better too.
He makes those guys better. He keeps the defense honest. So it was not the Bucs' day, and you can only say that so many times in a row without it becoming a theme and the identity of the team.
Yeah.
So
the only thing I'll say about that Mike Evans, and the only reason why it worked, was because they got out of that too high shell. And Brady literally comes to the line and is counting each of the guys and takes one glance over at Mike Evans and comes back and snaps the ball. And he's like, that is the only throw that I'm looking at right now. It's like, this is my only opportunity to get this off. And Washington went right back to that defensive scheme after that. So yeah, that was the only opportunity. I'm sure if somehow they got the running game going a little bit more, what Lenny have 11 carries for 47 yards. It's not bad, but if you're pounding the ball a little bit more, maybe they bring some safeties down. They get out of that like 3 deep look. It was almost like 4 guys deep, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, they were, and I mean, those short passes to the running back are ultimately the same as a run, really. So it's like another, 10 carries there, or more than that, however many pass attempts. But Washington stayed disciplined, and Ron Rivera and his group, in terms of being content with that, and they were willing to live with that, and it proved to be effective. Let's get to a couple comments here. Josh Sains on Facebook, I think coach should find every player that gets a legit penalty and give the money to players that don't get a penalty. That's an interesting suggestion I've never heard.
That seems like that'd be a really good idea for the locker room. I think all the guys would be like, nobody would have animosity towards anyone. Because
what pro athletes like, they really like a good fine structure. They really appreciate it and would understand the subtleties of it. So interesting thought there.
It's true though. You got to do something. You got to do something at this point. Like the penalties, especially in that first half, were just so backbreaking. And Washington was only up. I think they were up 16 at one point, 16-0. I'm pretty sure. But
13.
13-0. Okay, yeah. And it was just like they have to figure something out. Like they got to figure out a way to come out of these games like more fired up or something. I don't know what they can do, but
I agree. That's on the coach. I'll that's a little bit on the coaching. Like you got to figure a way to get your guys going, knowing that every game is hard. But where are you guys with the coaching and penalties? Like it seems like such an easy target to tell that, like, oh, the coach has got to have them better. It's like, well, they're the guys out there jumping, or they're the guys out there. Like, there's no coach telling someone to hit a guy late. I've always found that a weird narrative to just blame the coaching on that. It's just like, or, when people are like, oh, he's a special teams guy and they just got a punt returned against him. It's like, well, what? No special teams coordinator has ever had a punt returned against them. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like at some point the player just didn't make a play. It just seems like such an easy scapegoat. Now, obviously, granted, if you dig deep and you find that they were, being taught the wrong scheme or whatever, but just to make those like that Twitter analysis bothers me so much. It's so lazy in my mind.
You're right, Scott. At this level, it's like they know the damn rules. It's on the player, especially when it's veteran guys. I agree.
Oh my God, he's a defensive guy, and they gave up a touchdown. What's he even doing out? Who gave him a job? Well,
these things
happens. Yeah. I don't think he was trying to give up a touchdown when he was calling the defense on that drive. So, maybe just give him a second chance. Call me nuts. I don't know. Like I said, I've always just found that to be an easy scapegoat, pointing the finger kind of thing.
Very astute observation. I'm glad you said it.
Well, I'm good for 1 year.
Yeah, you should say it to Ndamukong Suh's face, because I'm frustrated with Ndamukong Suh. Last 2 years, too many times he's drawn flags and creating first downs for the opposition. And he's got to find ways to contribute. He's not the pass rusher he once was. He's still a very serviceable interior defensive lineman, great at stuff in the run, and he's mean. And when he does get to the quarterback, he hurts him. But, he can't take those risks anymore if he can't figure it out. He's got to stay on side. And
it's so hard with those guys who their mentality is basically like they play very much on the edge of what's a penalty and what's not on every single down. But like that's the intensity that they need just to get themselves to where they need to be. But a certain ref or a certain game and that style of play is just so unbelievably costly, right?
Just legislated out, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like certain safeties, I want to say like Earl Thomas or whatever, who used to have games where it was completely fine. And then other times you would have multiple, like hits to the head penalties or stuff like
Jamal
that.
Adams is kind of like that right now.
Yeah, I get it. Like that's what makes them great, but it's also such a fine line. You can easily just kill your team doing that, right? So and Ndamukong Suh has been the same way since he was at Nebraska. He's been the exact same. So,
and anyone playing defensive back, I feel like you're at a disadvantage. Like that's just even more excusable for that position, eh?
Yeah, for sure. And anyone playing defense, it's like you have to be out there trying to kill, basically. And like the offense knows what they're gonna do. You don't know what you're gonna do, so you have to react to everything. So like I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying to figure out a way to come up to that line without taking those penalties is the sweet spot, obviously. But that must be harder than it seems. Is what I would say.
Apparently so. So anyway, if at any point anyone has other Buccaneers thoughts, as always, please feel free to drop them in the comments, and we will try and pick those up. I think in terms of looking forward for the Buccaneers, they got the Giants on Monday night next week. Great. We know this Bucs team plays well in prime time. That is sarcasm because that's not true. But they're going to have to shake that off and show some form of life against the New York Giants. Then
at home too.
Yeah, at home. Then they got the Colts. Then they got the Falcons before they play the Bills week 14 at home as well. So that's what we're looking at in the next few games. Time to focus on the New York Giants. More importantly, focus on ourselves as a team, at least for the players. I recognize I am not a member of the team, nor am I employed by the franchise. I'm just saying because I am a part of them. Anyway, let's move on to some NFL news. Christopher Cole brings us right into that nicely as he says Arizona got blown out and Bucs fans are panicking. I mean, if Tom Brady was out of the game and we got blown out, I certainly wouldn't care much. Kyler Murray's missed the last 2 games, Christopher Cole. So
DeAndre Hopkins also out.
Yeah, Hopkins too. So but anyway, first thing I want to talk about NFL wide is just Odell Beckham Jr. signing with the Rams, and then the unfortunate Robert Woods heading to the IL, to the injured list for the rest of the year, tearing his ACL the next day at practice.
Insane timing.
Super unfortunate for Woods, obviously, and the Rams, obviously. But what an odd set of circumstances with that happening, just the timing of that.
It takes away one of my major concerns with OBJ going to the Rams was just, are you going to get the touches that you need? Being in that like ridiculously potent offense. And like now it sucks because Robert Woods is one of the better wide receivers in this league, but OBJ going there, now he's a clear number 2. I don't think he's going to ever elevate above Cooper Kupp this season, but he's clearly number 2. He's that second guy that Stafford's looking at, maybe the number 1 option on some plays. It just adds another layer to what he could potentially do in this obvious ring chaser situation he's put himself into. So I'm super excited to see what the Rams look like tonight. I think he's playing. I think he said he's going to return.
Yeah,
kicks.
he's supposed to play.
Yeah,
Von Miller as well. I read today is supposed to play. So definitely some intrigue in this game. Let's get some Trey Lance on the damn field, please. Like,
yeah.
I want to see the time. If they lose this week, I feel like they gotta hand it over to Trey Lance.
Dude, the Niners are 3-6.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean, goes without saying that this is a must win, and they haven't shown anything to me that would indicate that they can beat a real team like this.
So, like, is anyone out of that's my thing? Is like, is anyone out of the playoff race in the NFC at this point?
Well, Seattle really hurt themselves yesterday.
Seattle's probably actually out, but of the teams like Philly, San Francisco, Atlanta, Minnesota, Carolina, like any 2 of those teams could end up being in the playoffs.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, Carolina got a big win. I mean, we got plenty of games left. The NFC is wide open. I mean, especially Bucs falling down to a pedestrian 6-3. Cardinals have now lost 2 games. I mean, those teams at the top, what the Rams are dealing with, like you just said, we'll see tonight how they look. But lots of question marks for each of those teams, with the exception of Green Bay. I mean, I would have expected Green Bay to put up some more points against the Seahawks at home.
A weird game.
Weird game. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of that one. I was all about the Chargers-Vikings game.
Yeah, I watched that one too.
And I was pretty much focused on that, as well as being a parent, an angry parent following that 1:00 game.
Ooh, tough for the girls.
I think there is something that's going on at the, like, I think you're right. The NFC's wide open for like anyone to sneak in the back door, but at the top, like the Packers are clear. Like if it's a house, the Packers are in the master suite, like clearly.
Oh, I like that.
With the ensuite, and they have like heated floors and everything. They look like the cream of the NFC right now.
It's ironic because Lambeau does have heated floors, the grass.
Yeah, exactly. It's why everyone was slipping out there.
Hey, Bo, but I think the owner of that master suite doesn't have any vaccines in the medicine cabinet, so just that's to keep in mind.
He has a nice house. He just might not be able to leave it whenever he wants. But
right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? He's got hooked up with Joe Rogan's realtor, and I think they specialize in that kind of real estate. So something to keep in mind. Yeah.
No. I was just gonna say, like, to me, like, if coming out of this weekend, you could definitely say that the Packers are at the top of the NFC. You could possibly say the Cowboys are kind of like knocking on the door as well too. And then, like, let's see what the Rams look like tonight. Like, if they are unbelievable tonight, I think that they could catapult themselves in the same, like, Vegas might look at them the same way that they look at the Packers.
See how quick, though, not our opinions, but our perceptions can be altered in 1 week in this league. It's unbelievable, like, how much each game matters, right? Because think about how we're talking about the Packers, rightfully so. They just absolutely smashed the Falcons. But the Cowboys. But the Cowboys last week looked awful. The Bills lost to the goddamn Jaguars last week, and then they took care of business this week. So it's just wild, how I mean, I don't want to call it recency bias, and I like to think we all have a level head in the grand scheme of things. But with so few games compared to some other sports, it is incredible how 1 week can really. I mean, look at the Chiefs. Chiefs are a perfect example.
Yeah.
Right. All of a sudden, you're like, oh shit, was I like being a little too critical there? Like, was I not being patient enough?
I still don't think the Chiefs have it all back together.
No,
I think they got they're like, that's a good defense to kind of catch your like, to
breath.
Show up. Yeah, catch your breath.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the Chiefs got to prove it to me. I can't trust them.
Okay, so I hear what you're saying about the Chiefs. That looked more like them, at least. They hadn't looked like that in maybe this whole season, really. So at least they're that. But I'm with you, Bo. It's not just, oh, they blew out the Raiders. They're good to go again. Let's see what they do against Dallas this week. But Collin, to your point about the schedule, it's the equivalent of 5 NBA games, right? Is every week. So you have to draw these big conclusions from each week and then try to go from there. So that's why when you get these wayward performances or whatever, it does seem shocking. It seems, how can they bounce back? Like, every loss in the NFL is magnified. It's one less that you can get to those 10 or 11 wins you need to get to make the playoffs, basically, right? So, a 2 week span of 2 good wins, and then, almost any team is back in a playoff race or a division race. You can go from there, right? So I still think that NFC is wide open. Throw Tampa, the Rams, the Cardinals, the Packers, and the Cowboys. I think you can make an argument for all 5 of those teams to make it.
Any one of them could beat any one of the others on any given night, totally, which is going to make some entertaining football viewership in the weeks and months to come.
So, I totally agree. Now, and if we can get back to that Green Bay Seattle game for a bit, like I said, weird game. I thought it was going to be all snowy when I turned it on, and it wasn't. So that was disappointing, kind of lame, to be completely honest.
Snowy in the stands, at least.
Yeah, both quarterbacks, I mean, coming back after a bit of a layoff, just everything, both offenses were stuck in absolute mud, like legitimately hard to watch, which
Seattle's makes me like bang my head against the wall. Yeah. Cause I was watching.
Sorry, Bo. I was watching the game with my dad, who's like such a pass on first down advocate. Like he was like, why bother? Why bother having Wilson as your quarterback?
Yeah.
If you're not going to use them. And he's now a casual football fan, but he'll obviously throw on whoever's playing on a random Sunday. But he's always like, I don't get what they're doing with Wilson. You see what he can do, and it's just like what we've been saying. And it's like, all right, Mike Capron really, he must have listened to the pod, right? Like that's the only, as if he knew what a podcast was. But yeah.
Well, he knows what a post corner is because we're talking about quarterback dad, aren't we?
He certainly does. Certainly does. But yeah, they that was 17-0, 3-0 at the half was the lowest scoring half in football this year.
Yeah.
Weird. I wasn't expecting Seattle to come out firing with Wilson after Wilson was hurt and all that, but Jesus, did they look just like a college team out there.
They just can't. It's weird watching a team with that personnel struggle purely because of the play calling. Like it's like, to me, it's like I try to give Pete Carroll like the benefit of the doubt, like going into this season, just because of the results that we saw last year. But it's brutal. They run out 3 plays, and you're just like, it's going to be run pass, and it's not, the pass isn't going to get the first down.
And sorry to chime in here, but I think you're right in mentioning Pete Carroll's name, regardless of his role. Because even though they brought in Shane Waldron to be their offensive coordinator,
same offense,
obviously, right?
Yeah.
Same problem. So Pete Carroll has to be the one, and I know Scott especially has been very critical of Pete Carroll. I think Bo, you have as well.
Yeah,
a little bit, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt going into the season. Yeah.
I've been more Switzerland on it as well. But our coach killer in the top right-hand corner there.
It's one thing if you have whoever, Andy Dalton, and you're trying to win every game 17-14, all right? Like, okay, let your Super Bowl winning somehow, despite him being the coach, Super Bowl winning quarterback go out and do something. Like, it's so obvious, and it's not just anecdotal. Like, it's not, oh yeah, they don't use Russell Wilson well. Like Bo said, you watch the game and you know what the sequence of play calling is going to be. They are not good. They're like, the defense is fine, but it's not like what it was. I don't know if the Metcalf Lockett combination complements it. Like, it seems like it should, but they're not doing as much as they can. Now, that might be a byproduct of the play calling as well. They aren't a good team. They're not going to get back into this playoff race, and it's like, obviously we've talked about it. I think Russell Wilson is as big a tool as you can find, basically, like as there is out there. But he's an unbelievable player, and to see him get wasted is it's tough to watch.
And just to jump back, or at least connect something we were speaking about earlier, I mean, Scott, you talked about offsides, penalties, lack of discipline. Like, how can that always fall on the coach when the players know the rules? It's funny because play calling and stubborn ass play calling that's not providing results is a completely different issue, and that can clearly be attributed to the person calling the plays.
Yeah, that's a 1-to-1. There is no gray area there.
Exactly.
Like, and yeah, they have an offensive coordinator, but guess what? If things haven't changed, then that's because the coach is overseeing and deciding what's being allowed to be called and like what the game plan is. As if things don't happen in a football game where you might have to change what you do. Like, it's just it's like, it's prehistoric. It's unbelievable. Like I've said this before. People think Pete Carroll is youthful or whatever because he jumped into a huddle during a practice at USC in 2006. Like, times have changed, man. Like, he's not good.
Yeah, dude, I was watching the game with my dad as well too this weekend, and I was like, Dad, Pete Carroll, he's only like a year or two younger than you, and he's like, what? He's like, that is an insane job for someone my age to have, and I was like, I agree, and I think we're gonna see that is true as we watch this game today. Because it was so bad. Because he has a one-track mind. It's like, we have to run it and then pass it. And if that doesn't work, we'll punt it. And it doesn't matter if it's 4th and 1. It's insane.
Got to adapt. But I think we've talked enough coaching philosophy so far.
Yeah,
if it comes up, no, Scott, and I almost calling you our resident coach killer. Like, that's almost a respect. Like, I value your role greatly. You're very openly critical about coaches, and I find it to be highly entertaining and usually quite insightful from your perspective. So please don't interpret that as a slight.
My thing with coaches is I think it's easy to blame them or whatever, but if you can't manage a clock and your team is unbelievably predictable on offense, then that is you. That is you. That isn't hard to fix either. Those are things that are when people are like, oh, second down in the middle of the second quarter, why was it this run play versus another or whatever? That's not those one-offs. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about years of predictability and the coaches who don't know when to call a timeout. It's just inexcusable. Those are requisite parts of the job you need to be good at. That's all I'm saying.
It's the bare necessities.
Yeah.
On the other end of that, if we can just switch to another game, that Chargers Vikings game, you would have thought the Mike Zimmer was coaching the Chargers and that Brandon Staley was coaching the Vikings. The way that would play out,
right?
So glad you brought that up. Brandon Staley. Is he getting a little Staley? Like, what's going on here? Right?
It's so true. Yeah, no, it didn't take long because it turns out when you go on fourth all the time, people start to be like, okay, we can stop these guys. And also, every time you get a stop on fourth down, your defense goes insane. And I would swear, right, if we weren't on Facebook right now, I would put some more flavor on that. But there is no way that this is going to be a sustainable way to play football the way that they're playing.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I actually do think there's something to the just the momentum and how much it helps your defense when they get the stop. That's why my main reason for never kicking like a field goal, 4th and goal from the 3 is because the defense feels like it's a win. Honestly, like that's what they're coming off the field. I don't think anyone is worried. I don't think anyone on the team who gives up a field goal in that situation is upset in the least, right? No. So I don't know. I just think the benefits of going for it in that situation are way more way more advantageous. And just to that point, right? So at some point, the 4th downs, from midfield, maybe they catch up to you, and between giving the ball back and just the momentum, I do in general, I like his aggressiveness, but there's definitely something to what you're saying, Bo.
I like his aggressive too if it was more nuanced. And I'm ripping him on it after a Sunday where he doesn't go on 4th at all. But it's still, there's something about the way that he's calling the game that doesn't take into account that his defense is really bad. His defense is really bad for some reason. They cannot stop the run. And people are running all over them, and they're going to this entire season. They have Asante Samuel's really good. Chris Harris is really good as well too in secondary, and they can lock some guys up downfield. But I just feel like people just slice through their defense. So why are you going on 4th so often when you give up? You're basically giving up points at times too, right? Where you can at least reset the field and with the kickoff after getting 3 points, whereas you give this huge jolt to the opposing defense and possibly pretty good field position to the offense. It just seems, I just don't like the way that they're trending. And it's so obvious to me that this isn't the Chargers' year as much as we all wanted it to be at the start of this season.
A little early. Them and the Bengals will be meeting in Super Bowls in 3 years from now, maybe. Who knows? In terms of young, talented teams. But yeah, it's funny, The Chargers, I mean, they have elite talent at positions in all 3 levels. You didn't even mention Derwin James, right? And
exactly, yeah.
I feel like both Bosas, by the way, get hurt multiple times each game.
Yeah, you saw that when he got that neck stinger. It seemed like his season was over at first.
And TJ Watt gets hurt multiple times a game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm thinking TJ Watt and Joey Bosa. I'm thinking they're all
they're all brothers. Yeah,
sorry.
All white athletic defensive edge players.
Have some sort of blended family at this point, maybe. I mean,
Nick Bosa too, though. I guess it's white edge rushers. They just they don't have the durability of their counterparts.
I don't want to say that Ohio State breeds a certain type of injury prone guy. All right, I don't want to say that. But I feel like it's my duty to do that, so I'm going to, and they do.
That's harsh going after the Chase
Young
injury.
Sorry, Chase Young. Sorry, actually, Terry McLaurin stayed in the game somehow. Dwayne Haskins probably got hurt, whatever he was doing on Sunday.
Just watching Mason Rudolph, that hurt me to watch Mason Rudolph the little bit that I saw.
He heard his vocal cords talking through the microphone to Rudolph's helmet, telling him what read to make. Ew, the Steelers are like, I know it's Rudolph in there, but like anyone who has called them for real over the last 2 years,
their defense is really good, especially when TJ Watt's on the field. Their defense is extremely good, so I'll give them that. But yeah, their offense it just seems like a miracle every time they move the ball.
Yes, to do anything, it seems like a miracle. They're not good. Have two teams ever deserved a tie more than those two in that particular game?
Dan Campbell is really proud.
The Lions playing tough and they still remain winless, eh? Like,
what are we doing with ties?
Well, did you see that Najee Harris?
Najee Harris didn't know that a tie was possible.
That was so good. Such good content because they come from a proper overtime procedure in college, at least, or like something that's
never seen an NFL game before. That still seems odd.
It is. I don't know if that's his way of trolling the league or if he genuinely. I don't know though. Maybe that's part of being a good running back, just being short-sighted, focusing on the here and now. He wasn't worried about the NFL.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe. But
I love
ties are so ridiculous. They're so ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous. I mean, come on. You're worried about adding more games, 18th game, potential expansion. Like, let's sort out a goddamn overtime first of one game.
Yeah.
So you're explaining it to someone who doesn't know football. All right. This team gets the ball. If they kick a field goal, it's not over. The other team gets a try as well. Also, it's less time. It's only a 10-minute quarter. But if they score a touchdown, it's like
game's over. Yeah.
What are we talking about?
It's like that's like the same as like I never understood why hockey goes to a shootout. At least the shootout's entertaining, but it's a completely different game. It's like why did you guys just decide to play a different game all of a sudden?
Yeah, or soccer especially, like at least in the playoffs in hockey, you don't go to a shootout. Like penalties could decide a World Cup, right? Which is there's nothing less like soccer than penalties. It's ridiculous, right? It's like it'd be like if the NFL ended with the quarterbacks throwing footballs through tires.
Yeah, through the
Which would honestly make a little bit more sense than what we have going right now, but. The college overtime is better. It's better.
Yes. It's so much better. At least both teams get a chance. Like, that's all that matters. Equal chance for both teams, and it's not going to end in a tie.
And you can't end in a tie. It's such a lunatic.
Just go. Yeah.
Like 99. There can't be a third outcome when it only happens like less than 1% of the time, right? That's just it doesn't make any sense.
And I don't even want to get like in bigger picture, like the hockey thing. You're right. At least I guess come the playoffs, they play it out. But then that to me is also an indictment on their own process because it's like shootouts don't really count. So in the playoffs, we'll do it the right way.
Yeah.
I also find utterly
totally
ridiculous.
Fair. Yeah.
God. But so we don't have too much time. I'm going to throw out a couple headlines and then you guys you attack it however you see fit. One thing we didn't have a chance to talk about the Dolphins dominating the Ravens on Thursday Night Football. The Patriots smacking the Browns down with no Nick Chubb.
Quick thing on both of those games, barely a loss for the Ravens, seeing that Cleveland loses, Pittsburgh gets a tie for some reason.
They're still
and then the Bengals are on their bye. So
I'm watching the Illinois Marquette game in the background here, and the NFC North standings the AFC North standings just came up on the ticker, and Baltimore's leading at 6-3. Cleveland's in last at 5-5. So that's going to be interesting coming down the stretch.
It's crazy because Baltimore could be like 3-6. I swear to God, like with how some of their games end.
Talk about a game on Thursday where it just wasn't happening.
No, never looked like it had a chance. Yeah.
Dolphins D looked really good all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're flying.
They played great.
Javon Holland looked fantastic.
I was about to say Javon Holland really made me proud.
Him and Xavier Howard. Ooh. Back there.
Also, the crowd was real, which I feel like isn't a thing in Miami, but maybe on a Thursday night, right, as opposed to a Sunday afternoon, it was a thing to do. It was a super entertaining game to watch, and it's funny because I knew Baltimore was done; it just wasn't happening. But Lamar is in your head. He's always like they could do it, right? They could do it because they have him, and that's quite telling. That's how impressive he is, right? But that was ugly.
One other shout out with that Cleveland game, Jacoby Myers. Did you guys see Jacoby Myers get his first touchdown ever? Shout out to whoever was in the chat the other day that was like, you should bet on Jacoby Myers.
That was weeks ago, and that guy's a legend forever in here. We got to dig up his name because he was like, what do you guys think of the over-under on Jacoby Myers? We're like, dude, what?
Yeah.
He's gone off since that
for the listeners, we're the three of us are in a football pool together. You got to pick 5 games against the spread, and I'm texting Collin on Sunday about his pick, and he went with the Browns to start, and the Nick Chubb injury.
Chiefs were my first.
Oh,
choice.
The Chiefs were your first pick. Sorry, and I had locked in the Chiefs already. Sorry, but you went with the Browns, and the Nick Chubb injury was enough to knock it off, and he went with the Panthers instead. Just an epic play.
One of the all-timers,
huge for the squad.
Would have been on one side of a blowout, no matter what.
Everyone knows how Bo and I feel about the Chubbster, and if Nick Chubb is out, I'm out.
It's huge.
If he's in, I'm all in. Well, so that's how they're like. What am I going to trust Baker and a bunch of random D3 receivers? I don't know.
I have that exact same rule. Like if I'm going out to dinner or something, I'm like, is Nick Chubb going to be there? And if I get to know, then I'm just staying at home. It's worth
We all have a Nick Chubb. We all have a Nick Chubb in our life. Yeah.
I got a Nick Chubb right now. Okay. And in terms of the Patriots, I mean, I feel like Belichick and McDaniels are starting to find their groove a little. I mean, Mac Jones is getting a lot of love too. He was 19 and 23.
Are we worried about Jamar Chase and his offensive rookie of the year? Does he?
Yeah, well, you should be because these are the types of results that voters love most for coming from a quarterback. One, he's getting wins. He's doing it efficiently, not like prolifically, but efficiently. He did throw 3 touchdowns. Somehow they put up 44 points, and he didn't even throw for 200 yards though, which is wild.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
They're protecting him and they're getting wins, so you cannot criticize them really for their approach right now because it's working, and that's what Belichick does. And
they look good. They look really good.
But we'll see. I mean, they're nipping at the heels of the Bills technically, so
weird game for them on Thursday. At the Falcons, I feel like the Falcons have been that classic yo-yo team where that one week they'll beat someone and then the next they just get the absolute shit kicked out of them, right? And I don't know. I just have a weird feeling that Atlanta plays well on Thursday, but with it's Belichick. You could easily see them go down there and just choke them out, right? Like this weird.
It feels like they're catching their rhythm. I was saying that to you last week too. Scott in our chat, like they're seems like they're just kind of becoming that machine, and if they get Damian Harris back, like they could be a really good team.
Well, shit, man, they don't even need him back. Ramondre Stevenson looks incredible.
Good.
Yeah.
He's a
he didn't look good at the start of the year. I think we were pretty high on him coming out of the draft, but he's catching up now.
It's always a logjam at that position there. So especially as a rookie playing for Belichick, I feel like he probably had a short leash, didn't have a ton of opportunity. It's hard to judge a back without enough carries. But last 2 weeks or when he's getting the carries, he's looked fantastic. But
sorry, I'm just going through some of my prop bets for my fantasy football league, and if the Pats make the playoffs, I owe someone a steak dinner, and I have to shotgun a King Can.
Amazing.
So hopefully they don't.
Yeah, they're definitely making the playoffs.
I don't remember that bet. That was pre-baby. Let's just say that.
I love the wager though. That's great.
Strong.
Gotta get creative.
You'll have to order a steak from Wimpy's or something.
Exactly.
Something affordable.
It's technically a steak.
And how about Cam Newton, 2 rushing TDs, and the Panthers hand the Cards their second loss of the year? I mean, Colt McCoy's a disaster. Christopher Cole in the comments earlier mentioning that I'm not holding anything against the Cardinals for these losses without Tyler. But anyway, that's kind of cool for Cam. I'm happy for Cam. He stayed, since he was released from the Patriots, he stayed quiet. It wasn't, he wasn't a Odell Beckham Sr. coming to social media. I thought he stayed quiet. So it's kind of cool to see him come in and get in the end zone right away. I don't know.
I mean,
yeah, it was fun to see him, especially as soon as he got into the end zone, take his helmet off. That was fun.
Unlike Cam to do something like that, I was shocked to see him take a penalty. Although I'm sure he was just, I get it. He hadn't played. He comes back. He scores. I think he's earned a 15-yard pass there, I would say. Yeah, we can't take anything from the Cardinals for that game. That's like the infirmary unit, right? Doesn't even count.
Big win for the Panthers, though. And McCaffrey's getting healthy, and that defense is legit.
And now they get Washington this week.
Yeah, are we worried at all about the Panthers as a Bucs fan?
No. Go away. On that note, I think we are going to head up on out of here, watch some Monday Night Football. We didn't talk a ton about the game tonight, but I think we're all looking forward to seeing a couple new players on the Rams. We'll see how that unit gels and what they look like, because lots of season to be played. So Buccaneers fans, keep your chin up. Focus on the future. We got the New York Giants next Monday night. Oh, shit. We'll be on the air before that game. We'll give you a little pregame. How about that?
Perfect.
Yeah. So enjoy your week. Thanks for joining in. Check out our YouTube channel, Bucs Banter. And we will catch up with you guys next week. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.